personally, like, if I'm going to fight back against the government, if I'm going to have my arms to prevent tyranny, I need a surface-to-air, shoulder-mounted missile, because they're going to come at me with helicopters and probably some form of like hover planes.
I mean, also the Antifa BLM guys have drones now, so we need surface-to-air missiles.
I need all that. In fact, I need one that will scatter a bunch of missiles, like a Patriot missile system. I don't need the exact same thing. I don't need the full Patriot missile system, but I need something like that.
Is anthrax an arm?
I mean, you can weaponize it.
I'll defend myself. The right to defending yourself. It's crazy. You can't even use anthrax on people that are going to attack you now.
I'm going to start carrying around my crossbow with the poison I got off the back of a toad, right on the tip. Shit. Sorry, folks, but this, if they're I mean, it sucks, and we're not done. They're going to come out with West Virginia EPA, and EPA is going to be completely inhibited from dealing with climate change to the extent that it has been. But it's not just that. Again, they're constructing a machine. In this instance, it is a machine to undo the rights of essentially everybody who was not in charge of things in the 1850s and 60s and 70s. Well, really, to be fair, 1870s, right? Because you couldn't own slaves by the time these amendments passed, maybe 1880s. Couldn't own slaves, but just about everything else was fair game. Want to have a coup where you overthrow people and black politicians? That's okay. You want to inhibit people from voting because they can't read or they don't have a tax to pay? That's okay. You want to stop a state from saying that you can only have your workers work 60 hours a week? You want to stop a state from saying that children cannot be working 14 hours a day? I mean, I could go on and on and on. And this court is headed in this, well, I want to say it's headed in this direction, but in some instances, it's arrived. And, there's an argument for sure that Democrats should have codified this into statute, right to an abortion. I don't remember, many people talking about it. Even in 2007, Obama said, this is the first thing I'm going to do when I get in there, which I think was a response to Clinton had been sort of backing off of abortion rights, just saying you got to be low key about it. And certainly the Democrats were afraid to push it. There's no doubt about it. There was a financial crisis, and there was some legislation that ended up taking the priority, I guess, in 2009, I guess it was, halfway through. But nevertheless, they're not going to be able to do anything about this assault on the administrative state. There is no one single piece of legislation that you could pass. The bottom line is, we as a society gave the keys to the castle to the right wing in this country. That's what we did. And it's going to be a big slog to get them back. I don't know how else to express that. There's some stuff that if Democrats were to add 3 senators, I don't know, Fetterman, probably Ryan in Ohio even, I don't know who else, is even a slight pickup at this point.
You're going to have to replace the brains of about 50 people in Democratic leadership before they even think about doing something so bold.
Yeah, I think that's true. But the clock is ticking. And it's conceivable. It's conceivable that I think that, like, if you were to get 2 other Democratic senators, maybe even one, you'd pull Sinema along, depending on how Mark Kelly does in Arizona, if he stays in there. And you could get them to suspend the filibuster, perhaps. I had this idea about putting a tax on abortions, like some type of, I guess you call it an excise tax, like almost like a federal sales service tax, so that you could put it into reconciliation, because you can't have anything in reconciliation that doesn't deal with the budget of the government. But if you add a tax, you deal with how people pay for it later. But if you add a tax, maybe the abortion clinic pays the tax for, you add a federal tax on abortion providers, let's say, for every abortion they perform. It would implicate the federal budget, it seems to me. But I've heard 2 things. And then you could pass and certainly having 26 states not ban abortion is going to increase your tax revenues. I've heard 2 responses to this. I don't know how valid they are. One is that you cannot create a new tax in reconciliation. You can only change existing taxes. I don't know if that's true. The other is that the parliamentarian may just see it as what it is a scheme to get a policy in there, but I don't know. Then what you could do? You could vote to overrule the parliamentarian, which George Bush did to protect the traditional American right for rich people to have lower taxes. That's when they fired their parliamentarian.
That's the thing, like when you listen to those 2 activists up top talk about, I don't want to hear about from the Democratic Party. And I do think, like, look, there's a way that certain pro-GOP people emphasize that to basically, like, demoralize people. Right. But it is true, like, the Democrats can't be, like, effing around with this parliamentarian stuff and then still telling people, like, oh, but vote for us in November. Like, those sorts of things. There can't be status quo. There can't be, we're going to go down and robocall for Cuellar because he's a incumbent. Like, you got to change operating.
Yep. And to the credit of those 2 activists, they were like, we need to elect more progressive Democrats. And the thing is that I think they are widely representative, those 2, of their generation.
Yeah.
And which is not to say, I don't want emails that not quite boomers like myself, specifically Gen Xers, but also boomers and even the greatest generation, that there aren't people in those generations that have a good political perspective. But when we talk about the majority of those generations, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all of us.